I can't believe it muted me. Oh my God. Let's take it back. I said, welcome to the Social Dig, the greatest, underrated show on the World Wide Web. I am your host, Mr. Rob G. And as always, we're going to be digging into the topics that keep you talking and the talk that keeps you thinking. So come on in, kick your feet up, get comfortable, get an ice cold beverage, get ready to join the conversation. And what I was doing was I was reading through the comments because we had some early people come through here. And I'm going to go ahead and do that again because you guys are well worth my time doing that. And Mike Jones came through early and dropped a message. So let me bring those back up. He said, Mr. Rob G, hope you're feeling better and back 100. Yeah, I wasn't feeling too well earlier this week. I don't know what it was. Caught a quick little bug, lasted a couple days. We had Cashew come through, say, hey, Mr. Rob G. Once again, we had James Western. So what I was saying when I brought this up is he says, Cheesehead, go Pack, go. And I said, let's go Cowboys, because you know we're going this year. And we can talk about it week by week, by week by week, till we get to the end of the season and those boys hold that trophy up and get that 6th ring. And what I wanted to say, this is the message that I left because Magneticus said, I should say that in my videos and see if I get more likes and subs. And what I said was, that was in response to my comment here where I said, welcome everyone, come in, hit the like button. And if you're not subscribed, please hit the sub button and notification bell because we have a good time here at the Social Dig. Things are going to grow and progress. They're going to get better and better as we go along. We got some big things planned that I don't really want to let out the bag yet, but some things that are definitely going to, up the ante here at the Social Dig. So with that being said, Magneticus, let's see, we got, okay, he told me no sound, and I appreciate you on that, Magneticus. Damon Austin, no sound. We back in the building though, Damon Austin. Thanks for coming through. Magneticus, your lips are moving, but I don't hear a thing. I wonder why, man. Good Lord. Good Lord. I know I'm good now though. Okay, yeah, good. We're good. Okay, no audio, no audio. Oh my gosh, I can't believe that. Rookie move. Let's see, Magnetic. Okay, yep. I deserve all that. I deserve each one of those messages there. Okay, yeah, Mike Jones, Rob G. The power of suggestion works. Yeah, I hope so, because it's been a long time, and we need to go on to get to the Super Bowl. So, it's I was a little youngin' when last time we did that. But this is a good time of year. I love football season. I love getting into the fall, the chillier weather, because it's hot out here on the West Coast, and it's starting to cool down a little bit. So yeah, things are coming along. So like I was saying in the intro that had no sound, we're going to be talking about MUFON today, and did they drop the ball? Because when I made the title for the show, there were some things that I had to get off my chest about them, and I'm still going to do that today. But there were some things that kind of, that I became aware of recently that maybe altered it a little bit, but we're still going in with the plan, and we are definitely going to get into this here. So what I'm going to do is do what we always do right about now and get us into the news. Let's go. All right, disclosure news. And before we jump into that, as always, we're going to talk about Ask the Chat. So post a response to the question in the live chat or call the message line. You know the number. It's up on the screen. Put it in your phones. That number is 856-843-3444, or that's 856-THE-DIG. And let's go ahead and get into our news, right? So is disclosure heating up? Always the theme. Just like Magneticus said, just kind of want to wish some things or speak some things into existence here. And truthfully has been sort of lukewarm. But look, we're going to go over a few things, and I just want to get your opinion on the first story, which is going to be Grush in the new interview that he did, right? So we're going to do that. We're going to talk about the Mexico UFO hearing, alien bodies. And then tomorrow, NASA UFO report coming soon. So we're going to see what I don't expect much from that, but we're going to be hopeful that they do have something to say, or that they, have come around to, which I doubt it. I'm going to say that. I'm saying all this, but I doubt it. But we're going to hope for the best as far as that goes. So with the Grush interview, let's go ahead and I don't know if you've seen that. Let me go ahead and check the chat. Have you seen that? Magneticus almost called just to say there was no audio. Man, yeah, beat me up, man. I should never make that mistake again. Never, 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 never. So yeah, definitely. With that being said, Grush, he did this interview. Obviously, I'm not going to play the interview. It's a super long interview. I don't know if any of you guys saw it. Please tell me someone out there saw this interview. And I want to know what you thought about it before I go in and tell you how I felt about it. What were your opinions on this David Grush interview that he just did? He's been super quiet. He's never spoken through any outlets except for the News Nation reports that we've seen, the News Nation interview with Ross Coulthart, and then the UFO hearing, right? How do you feel about it? I'm just going to tell you right now, my feelings, I was not impressed. I was not impressed. I feel like I don't know, man. I feel like there was potentially some ammo given to skeptics because this interview wasn't really that strong. It really, even though he didn't really do anything wrong, he didn't say anything wrong. But I think that the level of interview that took place here, I just think he could have done better by just avoiding that. I'm sure there's thousands of people who have reached out, and me included, who would just love to have him on the interview. But I would ask the right questions. I just don't feel like the interviewer, even though it came across as these guys were friends, they were out hiking, doing all sorts of stuff together. And I just don't feel like, and I don't feel like that the interviewer put him in a bad position. I don't feel that there was any intention there to make him look any sort of way. I think they were just trying to get the interview. And Grush was being friends with these guys, was just willing to do it. But I think this is one that could have waited because Grush reiterated a lot of the same stuff that he's already said, but because of the laxed location, the laxed background. I mean, they were out walking through the woods and doing while asking these serious questions. So I just I didn't feel like he had the same determination to, the matter of factness. And I think that came through. If you remember the Ross Coulthart interview, that interview kind of blew everybody's minds, right? And I think that, we know that Ross Coulthart and David Grush actually did a pre-interview to kind of prepare themselves for that. So, which is why it came across so matter of fact in the answers that were given. But because it was so laxed in this background, it did not come across that way. And I think that just gives skeptics a lot to look at and hang on to say, hey, he didn't sound so believable in this interview. And truthfully, I've seen skeptics already jump on that, and I sadly have to agree with them on how. Now, if this was the only interview that we saw, had we not saw the Ross Coulthard News Nation interview, nor had we seen the UFO hearing, and this was the first thing that we saw, it didn't really come across as believable as I would have liked it to, unfortunately. So let's see here. No, Magneticus. Man, sorry for the long email about numbers. I'm a numbers guy, Magneticus, to tell you the truth. So anytime you get to do that, you get to bend in my brain, and I like that. I love mental exercises. So, yeah, I appreciate it actually, and I think it's something that can be learned from. So keep it going, Magneticus. But yeah, that's my spin on David Grush. That's how I'm feeling about the interview. I just think that it was not necessary. I mean, you didn't reveal anything new. All you really did was rehash the same answers to the same questions that you had already done. So was it really worth it at the end of the day to do that interview? You should have done the interview and just talked about normal things that David Grush likes to do, versus attacking this serious subject. So that's how I felt about that. If you haven't seen the interview, definitely go. I can't remember this guy, the gentleman on the left here, which is the YouTuber. It's on his channel. But it's an interesting watch, is what I'll say. Definitely go and check it out and tell me what you think about it yourself. So, with that being said, what we can do is let's go ahead and move into alien bodies in Mexico. So, just so you know, I do have this the full presentation already uploaded to this page. I just have it private or unlisted right now because I'm waiting on the full translation to this presentation. So I really wanted to watch the whole thing. Unfortunately, my Spanish isn't that great, so it really wouldn't help for us to watch it during this show. But I would like to know, what do you think about that? What do you think about the alien bodies in Mexico? What are your thoughts on that? I mean, that's pretty much the part that we can take from it. I'm going to read you at least an article. I was able to pick that up so we could at least get some background on what it was that they went over and what it was that they talked about. So let me go ahead and bring that up. And I actually have that here. All right, yeah, let me go ahead and read that, and then we'll go ahead and talk about it in a moment here. So, aliens body. Okay, Mexican Congress holds hearing on UFOs featuring purported alien bodies. So, Mexico City, September 13th. This is from Reuters.com. Mexican lawmakers heard testimony that, quote, "we are not alone in the universe," and saw the alleged remains of non-human beings in an extraordinary hearing marking the Latin American country's first congressional event on UFOs. In the hearing on Tuesday, the FANI, the Spanish acronym for what are usually now termed unidentified anomalous phenomena, or UAP, politicians were shown two artifacts that Mexican journalist and longtime UFO enthusiast Jaime Maussan claimed were the corpses of extraterrestrials. The specimens were not related to any life on Earth, Maussan said. The two tiny bodies, displayed in cases, as we see here, have 3 fingers on each hand and elongated heads. Maussan said they were recovered in Peru near the ancient Nazca lines in 2017. He said that they were about 1,000 years old analyzed through a carbon dating process by Mexico's National Autonomous University, or UNAM. Similar such finds in the past have turned out to be the remains of mummified children. Musan said it was the first time such evidence had been presented. Quote, I think there is a clear demonstration that we are dealing with non-human specimens that are not related to any other species in our world, and that all possibilities are open for any scientific institution to investigate it, Musan said. Quote, we are not alone, he added. Jose de Jesus Zalque Benitez, director of the Scientific Institute for Health of the Mexican Navy, said X-rays, which we're viewing here, 3D reconstruction, and DNA analysis have been carried out on the remains. Quote, I can affirm that these bodies have no relation to human beings, he said. The UNAM on Thursday republished a statement first issued in 2017 saying the work by its National Laboratory of Mass Spectrometry with Accelerators, or LEMA, was only intended to determine the age of the samples. In no case do we make conclusions about the origin of said samples, the statement said. Lawmakers also heard from former U.S. Navy pilot Ryan Graves, who has participated in U.S. congressional hearings about his personal experience with UAP and the stigma around reporting such sightings. Congressman Sergio Gutierrez from President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador's ruling Morena party said he hoped the hearing would be the first of other similar events in Mexico. Quote, we are left with reflections, with concerns, and with the path to continue talking about this, Gutierrez said. In recent years, the U.S. government has done has done an about face on public information on UAP after decades of stonewalling and deflecting. The Pentagon has been actively investigating reported sightings in the recent years by military aviators, while an independent NASA panel studying UFOs is the first of its kind by the space agency. NASA is set to discuss findings from the study on Thursday, which is tomorrow. Musan faced swift backlash and criticism from skeptics on Wednesday who questioned the authenticity of his presentation. Quote, this could really hurt efforts to take the issue seriously, said a user of Twitter's social media platform. Why didn't they wait until a scientific paper was ready to publish it? So, that was the feedback on these quote unquote alien bodies. What do you guys think about that? Before I even say, let me go ahead and take a look at the chat here. Magneticus, I'll get you definitely a link here. I'll get you a link. He knows taco and burrito in Spanish. Yeah. I know buche and pollo, and believe me, we have some of the best taco stands down here in Bakersfield. It's crazy. They're on every corner. Let's see. Wish we could talk to the scientists that did the DNA on those bodies, says Mike Jones. And Magneticus says DNA is where my numbers come in play. Okay. And let's see, Magneticus 2003. I had no idea what SETI was doing with my computer. Mike Jones says so many tribes have stories of little people across the world. Now that's true. That is a true fact. I mean, I guess we'll talk about that here, but let's see. Magneticus now got an idea how the network workforce works. Mike Jones definitely patterns. And then Magneticus, with these numbers, I'm telling you, this is that guy right here. Mike Jones, I read where the original ads would spit out a long number and refer to God. Okay. Possible, definitely. I think everything's related to number. I think what's that binary code, right? They figured that probably the best way to communicate with extraterrestrials would be through some sort of binary, and that's probably true because it doesn't matter what language you speak, or if you speak at all. If they're individuals, then there has to be some sort of counting system, across the galaxy. Most likely has to be. So yeah, numbers is going to be the common denominator here. And let's see. Let's see. Mike Jones says these bodies are just mind blowing. Yeah, they are. They are if they're real. Now we know. I think it was Dr. Gary Nolan who was let in on examining. I don't know if you remember that little. It was actually smaller than these guys here. The little corpse that they found in the rainforest, and Dr. Gary Nolan was able to get a sample of it, and then it was determined that this thing was pretty much a child, a baby, um, that had some sort of birth defect. I don't know if you guys recall that, but that was just not too long ago that Gary Nolan came out and confirmed that. So you know it's just and I understand what the person in the article is saying. The person that was on Twitter who had responded or rebutted the claims here, and it's just because there's even been other cases, not just that's one case with Dr. Gary Nolan, but there was another case where they actually had what they claimed to be a body, again from South America, that ended up being some sort of like a Frankenstein mishmash of different animals sewn together, and then covered in some sort of plaster, uh, to kind of hide the seams where it had been actually put together. So when I think of that, and then I look at these X-rays, it very much reminds me of those. And truthfully, I don't know if these are the same things. They might be. These might be the same things that I'm talking about, but they were coated in something, and that they ended up being examined, and they X-rayed with bones and everything because they were actual parts of different animals. So, and this kind of reminds me of that. So just because this thing has a skeletal structure, I still would take it with a grain of salt for now, because obviously, if these, you have to think about it like this: if these are alien bodies, then this is the biggest thing that we've been shown, period. And I think there'd be people beating down the door to confirm that these things are authentic. So I'm not going to say that they're not. I'm just going to say that we've already been presented with things that they said were real from South America that turned out to be not at all alien bodies in two circumstances. So now we're on three. So this will be 2 out of 3 so far have not been what they said it was. So chances are that this is probably going to fall in that same boat. Although I hope that it is real, because then we can get everybody to shut up. But I don't think that they should have done this at a hearing. I think that they should have done this, examining these beings here, these bodies, behind closed doors, so they could have figured out what it was first, then brought it out. Because now, in the same week, we have David Grush doing this weird interview with, some random YouTube channel, which, shout out to the channel because they were able to get the interview, but something that could have been left for later, done a different way. So with that, and then these two things, I personally feel like work against the whole push for disclosure. It's just something, and if you go look at the skeptics pages right now, Go look at their channels. Go look at what their top news is on the skeptic channels right now, and this is on the front page of the latest video they've done, or it's the David Grush interview. So not a great week for disclosure. Although I am happy that Mexico is trying to at least be more vocal about what's going on and kind of trying to take the lead on it, but you can't take the lead with something that hopefully ends up being real, but I really don't think so. So let's take a look at the chat here. So and here we go. Mike Jones, I mean, you're making great points, right? Because very small hobbit bones found in Indonesian island, yeah. And so, but when we say hobbit bones, I'm all with that. But that can end up being obviously something that is terrestrial, something that's from this planet and not from some other planet. And then that cuts the alien talk. But then, wow, we found hobbits. So okay, great. Let's see. Yeah, if they're real, indeed, well said for sure. Magneticus says, if they're just babies and another false flag on the field, I know. And I'm just hoping. But if you know those stories of the thing that Dr. Gary Nolan examined, and we can cover it at some point here, maybe next show. I didn't have it for that. I should have had it. And then the plaster ones that ended up being like monkey parts. It was weird, but they were also presenting those as real. So yeah. So here we go. And Mike Jones says, then again, do we just accept what they say about the DNA? We can't. We have to have someone else test it. And it should be open for testing. It should be all scientists across the globe should be able to go to that location and run tests themselves, so we can get blanket confirmation across all fields, and that's what should happen. I'm sure there's some scientists probably won't even waste their time going because they already assume that this is going to be a hoax. So Magneticus, which is words, he who tells a lie, he who believes a lie, or the one who spreads the lie? Great question. Mike Jones, I've heard of DNA being tested and different results depending on the circumstance. Right. Yep. Facts. Joshua says real. You think so, Joshua? If you could just tell me why you think it's real, and then listen, because it's obviously it's an open conversation. None of us knows. We don't have it in our possession to be able to say. But I can tell you what's come out of South America. The only two times that I can recall or think of here where alien bodies have been presented, mummified or deceased aliens that have been presented in public, have not been authentic. So Mike Jones, if these are real, would they admit it? I think they would be forced to, because they are claiming to be open. Now, here's the thing. So either they're going to be open to letting people test it to confirm it, or they're going to say, no, you can't test it. That's kind of how they were with the previous bodies. They really didn't want anyone to be able to test it. They had reasons why. And, so if you're not going to let us test it, then obviously they're not real. Now, if you let us test it, then we can figure out once and for all if this is what it is. Let's see. I had my own encounters, so I listened to other stories, fact or fiction. Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's when it comes down to, because we know encounters, we know there's real encounters, period. We know there's the ships. We know there's living things that have gotten off of these ships, for sure. We know that. I'm more inclined to believe the Peru situation more than this. However, you know, I don't know. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Um, yeah, yeah. Flying discs are real for sure. They are real. And welcome Jody Terry. And I do believe aliens exist. Yeah, for sure. They definitely. There's no doubt about that. Um, could aliens, angels mix with hobbits? Possibly. I don't see why not. And yeah, we got little people and giants. Definitely, we sure do. And let's see. I go back to, even with all that, we had 60-foot lizards walking on this planet that we know for sure. How wild is that? That's just bananas to even think about. So if 60-foot lizards we confirmed have walked on this planet, I'm open to pretty much anything as far as that goes. I mean, until you prove it to be incorrect. Um, let's see. Yeah, agreed. Open to testing. Yeah, definitely. And let's see. You're just saying the timing is suspicious. Expand on that, Jody. What do you mean by that? Like, are you saying the timing is suspicious, so these are probably fake, or timing is suspicious with all this going on that these must be real? Let me know. Um, yeah, good point. If they don't let people test, yeah, for sure, that's revealing. Um, some Nephilim that same Nephilim that built Peru. Yeah, yeah. Like I said, that's what we do here. We walk the middle of the road here, and the evidence, depending on what evidence is presented, is which way you go. You stay in the middle. You don't lean too far one way out the gate, and you allow the evidence to draw you to that side. So at this point, they've presented bodies. The bodies look like they could be some mummified bodies. These bodies on x-ray do have bones, but the thing that's working against them is there's already been two hoaxes out of South America with things that were biological things, but they in both cases they were not aliens. So that's the thing that they have working against them. If this was the first thing that ever came out, and it's like, wow, this thing has a skeletal structure, and then it'd be like, whoa, you know what I mean? But we just take it with a grain of salt. Don't fall too far one way. Don't just buy all into that, and just to have your heart broken, in a few months when it all comes out that it wasn't. You're not saying that it isn't, but just don't put all your eggs in one basket. Um, let's see what's going on with our government. Jody Terry says, "What's going on with our government, etc." Don't want to say too much and get you booted. LOL. The truth that's coming out. Hey, we talk about that here. And actually, we have a show on, what is this, Wednesday? So that would be Sunday, which we're going to just talk about the top secret government and what they might be up to. And yeah, so that it'd be definitely something that you'd want to join in on Sunday. Mike Jones, how could those huge mile-long drawings in Peru be made? We did a show on that. If you look on a previous show, we did ancient astronaut theory, where we covered that, and I totally believe that those drawings were done. I think I can say they were most likely done by humans. Probably, we can't say for sure, obviously, but if they were done by humans, they were done to be viewed by someone that was in the sky. And at the time they were made, we didn't have the ability to appreciate those from altitude. The only thing that could would be something else. So Long Island Bigfoot in the building. My guy, what's up, Long Island Bigfoot? We're going to have Long Island Bigfoot actually, uh, and David Divine Broadcasting on the show Friday. We're just going to be chatting this social roundtable. Anything goes. We'll be talking about a little bit of this, a little bit of that. So it should be interesting. Make sure you guys come for that show. Jody Terry, that's why I say the timing is sus. Yeah, so we can get into that. And I wish I don't have I don't have my the connection to take the live call because I would just have you call in right now. So man, we'll do it Friday and you can expand on that. I'll make sure I have it Friday. Magneticus, I know electric current will crack a rock, roll along, crack a rock along a line. Okay. Um, who's to say they didn't have hot air balloons? Yeah, yeah. We know there's been lost technology for sure in our past, so anything's possible there. Though I'd have to look further into that. I couldn't confirm or deny that they did at that point in time. Um, let's see. Yeah, Magneticus, a rice paper balloon won't float from Japan to Western America. Bryson Folio Fudge, I'm late. No, you're right on time, Bryson. We're just in the middle of talking about these alien bodies, and we would love your input on these. I'm sure you've seen them. What do you think about these? Do you think they're real? Do you think these are authentic? What are your thoughts? Mike Jones, no complaints, brother. Okay. Bryson studying for the test, missing notification, love the show, and we love you too, Bryson. Finally, you've been here, since the beginning, and we love having you here. You always have something good to input, and we love your input on this. Mikey's Beach just got in the building. Hey, Mikey's Beach, you gotta check out Mikey's Beach. He's over there jamming on that guitar, at least twice a week. You can put in the chat the days, Mikey. But you got to go over there. I love music, so I go over there and I relax and listen to whatever he wants to play. So it usually runs for a couple hours, has a super long playlist. Mike Jones, has anyone seen the ancient book from India with flying machines? Yeah, I covered that. That's the Vimanas. The Vimanas, and that's 6,000 years ago. And they had, we actually, if you go watch the ancient astronaut theory show we just did a few episodes back, we covered all those. Nazca lines, Vimanas, all those. Magneticus, I get a lot of views from India for some reason. Yeah, and I need to actually change my, subtitles. I need to, because I get views from there as well, and in some random countries I wouldn't have really thought of. So very important to do your subtitles, your closed captions, and I'm behind on that. But I'm a one man show, so gotta get what you can. Yeah. So great discussion on these things. The jury's out. I can't wait until I'm waiting. Like I said, I have the video, the full presentation uploaded, and I'm waiting on the translation, the full translation, and then I would make it available so everybody can just watch the full thing, and we can try to get in on, because because most of us aren't fluent in the language, then we're not going to get everything that the small gems that we could, as far as things that they covered. So, Bryce Folly says, I believe they are real. Too much is at stake for too many people to present this publicly for it to be faked. I feel you, Bryson. I feel you. I do. Lots of people would be humiliated for it to be released like this. Now, you weren't here when we were talking about this, but here's what I was saying. So, Dr. Gary Nolan, if you remember a couple years ago, 2-3 years ago, said that he had worked on that or obtained a piece of the skeleton of that little small, remember, it was a little alien, it was like this big, and they said it was an alien baby or something along those lines. It was probably 6-7 inches long, and he got a piece of that, and they determined that that was a human, that was a human baby that was born with some sort of birth defect. I forgot, it was a cranial defect. So that was one case. And then, Bryson, I don't know if you remember the other case. And like I said, I wish I had it. But in South America, and I swear it might be these things because they look very familiar. And I know they did x rays on those as well, and they saw skeletal structure. But they were covered on the outside with this sort of almost like a paste. And they said it was like ritual or something along those lines. But it came out, it was determined that that paste that they covered these bodies with were actually used to hide the fact that the bodies that they were presenting were actually sewn together pieces of different animals, like monkeys. It was like two or three different animals that they had sewn together to create this alien body. So when you know those stories and you've looked at those, you have to kind of sit back on this one and not pass judgment immediately. I mean, that would be the wise thing to do. The wise thing to do would be like, interesting. Okay, I'm going to wait and let's see what comes out of it. You know, I'm not going to jump all in and say, hey, these are real. No, guys, these are real based on what history has already said. History has already shown us that in South America, both cases previously were in South America, both cases turned out to be false, hoaxes. Both cases were hoaxes. And I want to say Jaime Musan, was tied to the bodies that were sewn together. So I'm gonna do more research, and if somebody in the chat is able to look that up, definitely look it up. But let's we don't want to just believe to believe. You know what I mean? We want the proof. We want the evidence. We want the facts, because it would be a shame to jump in believing just to find out a month from now that this was completely and totally false and fake. Then it's like, well, what do you believe, right? So I think we should just kick back, see what happens, and then go from there. Um, yeah, I guess saying don't throw the baby out with the bathwater literally, literally applies. Mike Jones, hilarious and true, hilarious and freaking true. Joshua Turducken, almost, almost like a turducken. And if you Google Jaime Musan alien bodies, these things aren't just being revealed today. I'm probably 70% sure, and I just gotta. I'm not gonna say 100%. I'm not gonna say these are the same ones, but there were multiple. The ones with the paste on them, there were multiple that were presented, and they would not let anyone else come and examine them. They wouldn't let them do anything. And I want to say these are probably the same exact ones. And if they are, these have already been debunked years ago. But like I said, just it'd be nice, but just kind of, hold back. And let's see, Magneticus. When my father bought a retired funeral home, I always remember my father's baby coffins remark in the basement. Yeah. And we know babies definitely pass, and that's the skeleton that Dr. Nolan examined was an example of that. It was a human baby that passed, and they just discarded in the rainforest. I believe the rainforest is where they found it. And yeah, I mean, you know, definitely sad, but let's make sure, because here's what's going to happen, right? These news outlets that are kind of buying in now that UFOs are real and kind of coming around like, hey, this is wild. that these beings are here and they're coming aboard, last thing you want to do is hit them with something completely fake and false. That's the last thing you want to do, because guess what happens? They stop reporting. At that point, they stop reporting. If everybody tries to push these bodies as being real in ufology, if everybody is pushing this, saying these are real, and talking to the skeptics, and it turns out that these things are not real, it's a L for ufology and this disclosure movement. It's an L. The news is gonna make everyone believe me. It is not gonna be good for ufology if everybody starts backing this immediately without doing research, without allowing the process to take place and examinations to happen. We are going to be laughed out of the building. So if you want to get to that point where this is all taken seriously, then you have to kind of take that middle of the road approach, not immediately jump in and say real, because none of us have examined these bodies to say that. We can hope that they are, but we should let science do its thing. If these things are obviously there, they can be examined by hopefully anyone, and let time tell. But skeptics are already jumping onto this, and they are already saying, look what these guys in ufology, they believe these things are real. That's what they're saying right now. So 10 steps back for the 2, 3, 4 steps that we've taken. If we latch ourselves onto this and then go to these news outlets and say, yeah, these are real, you need to be reporting on these, and they turn out to be fake, it's an L. It's an L. Bryson's Folly. I'm an armchair researcher sitting at home in the USA and watching videos on the internet. Exactly. Then that's the point. Just a rocket scientist. Mike Jones, one thing we can all agree, there's a lot more than we know. Yeah. Mikey's Beach, Mike Jones, if our government knows, I unfortunately have to agree that they should keep a secret. Our world isn't ready. I can agree with that in some points. I think we can be ready, but at this very second, maybe not. But I think a majority of us are. People who have experiences and sightings and things like that have already have had their disclosure. I've had my disclosure. I know these things are here and real. I've seen these spaceships. I've seen them. So I know they're here. So there couldn't be anything that they could tell me except for why they're here. Now the why, that might be the thing that I think a lot of people might not be ready for. Magneticus. One Bible I have, it says baby born date died. They didn't even name the child. Mike Jones, Luke 21 says end days in the heavens that make men hearts fail. Bryce's Folly. Well, then what would convince all of us what is real? A body that isn't fossilized, that looks like it was from the X-Files. Fox did that autopsy video in the 1990s, and no one believed that. Look into what is that? What is that? It's a not a jack-o'-lantern. What's that thing? It was like half rabbit, half deer. Forgot what they called that thing, right? The taxidermist put it together. It's simple as that. Just sewing two parts of two different animals' bodies together. They already proved that they did that with the previous bodies. So, and we have guys that work in film right now that can create something that looks even more realistic than that and a lot better than that. So that's what I mean. Exactly. Yeah. It's so hard to discern what's fake and what is real. That's the point. That is the point. Mikey's Beach. Yes, a majority are ready, but the minority will lose their mind. Yeah. Yeah. Which, since you said that, Mikey's Beach, a good point right now is that, The statistics have changed in the polling where they're showing, and we talked about a month ago that 57% of Americans polled believed that government was hiding UFO secrets, and like 20% said, no, it's not true. Now we're at up to, I believe, 63%, where 63% to believe that the government is holding information, and still the same 18-20% that say no. But that means that the people who just won't buy into it, just don't believe it, are the minority, very small minority. Um, let's see. Mike Jones can't help think the Bible stories of the angels coming down and their return, right? And then jackalope. That's what it was. Jackalope. Yes, jackalope. So right there, jackalope, right? We know there's no freaking such thing as a jackalope, but we seen one, right? We seen one. We saw a jackalope, a rabbit with deer antlers on its head, and that is as simple as that. It is simple as that when it comes to this, because they had already proved with the previous bodies that they came out with that they sewed those bodies together and then put a plaster on the outside so you couldn't tell when they presented it as alien bodies. And I think it's just sad that, people would do that because it hurts the movement. We have to base a lot of the stuff we're doing now. Now that things are being taken seriously, we have to base a lot of what we're doing in facts, and then not just believing just to believe. Jody Terry says, I think acceptance would depend on how it was presented. Yeah. I mean, if you find out that they're here to stop nuclear war, that's the best news ever. That'd be accepted immediately. I think everybody would be on board for that and love that fact. And so that would be a situation where, yeah, we would be ready to accept that. But if the truth is that they're here to devour your soul, or do something along those lines, that's the one that's going to be hard pill to swallow, especially when we know we can't do anything to stop in our government. We're the most, here in the US at least. I know a lot of people from different countries here, but here in the US we're supposed to have the most powerful military on the planet by far. And our military can't even put a dent in these things. So if they're here for bad reasons, you're going to have people not going out to camp on their own, going in the woods, going dark places by the things would change drastically. Mike Jones, thanks for supporting Rob G and Social Dig. Back to you all. Yes, thank you, Mike Jones, for saying that to everybody, and I really do appreciate everyone here, because that is the Social Dig. The dig is a double entendre, right? The Social Dig is by the shovel icon, as we dig into topics and we uncover the truth. But the dig is also a place to hang out. It's your dig. So double entendre there, and this is exactly why this thing exists, is for us to be able to come together and just talk like this. So when I implement the live line, I'm going to want to hear your voices. You know what I mean? The chat is great, and you can stay in the chat if you like, but I'm going to want that back and forth conversation where I can hear you and you hear me, and we just talk back and forth. So we'll be doing that here. Always remember the movie Contact. Let's see here. Taxidermy. Yeah, taxidermy is exactly it. My wife knows I can't watch Close Encounters of the Third Kind without saying I say that. It's very authentic movie when it comes to the phenomena. Will government use help from others for bad? What do you mean by that, Mike Jones? Let's see. Magneticus, name that tune in 3 notes. Bryce's Folly. Well, if ETs are afraid of nuclear fission bombs, we have at least alerted them to our presence. Yes. Mikey's Beach, I'm digging it. We're digging having you here too, Mikey. Appreciate you joining the conversation. Oh geez, yeah, need to call in, man. I mean, I could do it with the speaker phone, but that's kind of janky. I have actually a two-way uh, auxiliary, which allows you to go into the system and then also not hear the feedback from the show. So it's real clean audio. So for sure, period, I'm gonna have that set up on the next show. I had it set up every day, and then the time that I'm actually want to use it, I can't find the freaking connection. So I'll be looking at that. Let's see. Okay, I'm in EST, so it's late for me. Yeah, normally we do five, but like I said, I'm a one man show here. So when I'm putting this stuff together, I'm putting everything together. So sometimes the show pushes back a little bit. I'm trying to find a comfort zone for the show, and we're working all that out. Like I said, we have some really great things coming down the pipeline. The show is going to evolve a little bit um, in what we do here and what we cover. There's going to be UFOs for sure because that's the most important topic that humanity is being faced with right now. Is what this the presence of extraterrestrials. But we're gonna touch other humanitarian things, and you'll see. Just stick around and grow with us because we have so much room to grow from here. So yeah. So with that being said, yeah. So we'll talk more about the alien bodies in Mexico. It's just we don't obviously it was all done in Spanish. Like I said, I do have the full presentation, but it's completely in Spanish. So I'm trying to work out the full translation. Then I'll post it on the page here. That way you'll be able to go and just watch it yourself, and then we can revisit it because I'm sure there's other parts of the presentation that were good to talk about, but we just don't know what those things are right now, unfortunately. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into NASA report, UFO report coming soon. So we will talk about this on Friday. The show coming up with Long Island Bigfoot and David Devine broadcasted Friday at 5. But this report comes out tomorrow. Don't really expect much from it. We saw what NASA did or had to say at the Arrow meeting that they had a few months back. So they said they claim they have no proof. They have never had any proof of extraterrestrial evidence here on Earth. But we know that there's been astronauts and all sorts of people within NASA who have said otherwise. So I don't expect much coming from that. And yeah, Bryce Folly. I saw that. I watched her. She was doing. I watched her earlier with Jimmy Church, and she was pretty much doing translations on that. And then I don't want to use her video because then we're talking about copyright strikes and stuff like that. Plus, it's like a 4 hour thing. So yeah, she was translating when I tuned in. Or I tuned in earlier today, and she was doing translations. I was trying to find, and someone did a rudimentary translation where I guess they had like the Google Voice uh, listening and then translating into English. But I'm trying to get the like the authentic translated version, and I'm trying to work a system out right now that'll do that. But let me see. Yeah, I was watching that, right? So I didn't see that. When I was watching it, I watched it for about 20, 30 minutes. And her and Jimmy were just talking about she was translating what the X-rays and reports were showing on the alien bodies. And let me see. Okay. Yeah, so yeah, the NASA report, we'll be doing that tomorrow. I'm going to read a story, though. We do have the story about, I guess, what to expect in this report, because I'm not even sure exactly what it is that they're reporting. Are they just reporting their findings so far or what specifically they're doing. So, according to the Fox story that was put out on this earlier, let me go ahead and read that to you here. So, NASA's UFO report will be released Thursday. NASA will release a highly anticipated report Thursday on what it calls UAPs, short for unexplained anomalous phenomena in the sky, in space, or undersea. The space agency, which launched the independent study in 2022, will publish the team's full findings online about 30 minutes before they host a news briefing at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, or Eastern Daylight Time. You can watch it on live now from Fox. So I'll try to run that live tomorrow if I can get that set up. The group looked at what unclassified information is available on the subject and how much more is needed to understand what's going on in the sky. No secret military data are included, such as anything surrounding the suspected spy balloons from China spotted flying over the U.S. earlier this year. Quote, there is currently a limited number of high quality observations of UAP, which make it impossible to draw firm scientific conclusions about their nature, NASA said. There has been a heightened interest in UFOs this year, thanks in part to the bombshell testimony from a whistleblower who accused the U.S. of concealing a long-standing program that retrieves and reverse engineers unidentified flying objects. Asked in July whether the U.S. government had information about extraterrestrial life, retired Major David Grush claimed the U.S. likely has been aware of non-human activity since the 1930s. The Pentagon has denied Grush's claims of a cover-up. This week, an independent journalist and ufologist testified under oath to Mexico's Congress, presenting to the two of the alleged alien corpses in windowed boxes. Jaime Maussan claimed the remains were found buried in a diatomite mines in Peru and had been preserved for 1,000 years. In late August, the Pentagon announced it would launch a new website with all domain anomaly resolution office, which would provide the public with declassified information about UFOs. The new website will provide the public with information including videos and photos associated with resolved UAP cases as they are declassified and approved for the public. So with that being said, we get into our Ask the Chat. And does showing these bodies help or hurt disclosure? In your opinion, does the fact that they showed these bodies and presented these bodies, do you feel that helps or hurts disclosure? If you ask me, I definitely want to know what you think, but I think it doesn't help. I think it doesn't help, And Magneticus says, Bryson's folly, let's see. Yeah, I'm hoping for the best from NASA, but expecting the worst. It came out of nowhere. Well, no, this was planned. They had this, I want to say, when was this? I know Kirkpatrick, it was mentioned in the ABC News interview that Kirkpatrick did right after Grush came out or testified at the UFO hearing, that they would be, it was supposed to actually come out by July or August 31st, but I guess it's late. So, Bryson's folly. I don't expect much from Bill Nelson's administration of NASA. Yeah, he promised a lot when he went in. He said, he's doing the opposite of what he said he would do. But that's how it goes. I mean, in government, in any of these high levels of authority, any of these places where they can close the door on you when it comes to information, they say one thing going in, and once they get in, they don't do what they say. Let's see. Haha. Bryce's folly. Ryan Graves said it was a step back in his Twitter. Yes, and I'm so grateful that Ryan Graves came out and said that, because he tied his name to this event, and if he didn't say that, he loses credibility. So a lot of people understand that this wasn't actually the right move to have Musan. But here's the thing: you couldn't have stopped him from doing that. That's his country, or yeah, I'm not sure if he's actually from Mexico or if he's from South America, somewhere in South America. But he was the one, and I'm pretty sure, and I'm next show I'll say for sure, but I'm almost 80, 90% sure he was the one tied to those plaster beams. So let's see. Magnetic is the best meetings are the meetings between meetings. Yeah, the ones that we'll never be privy to. So, with that being said, we'll go ahead and jump out of the news segment here and then jump into MUFON and talk about MUFON because there's some interest. We'll talk about it. Let's get out of the news. All right, MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network. So, obviously, they were established back in 1969. We know who they are. They've been around for most of the ufology, for the most of the current, iteration of ufology. So they've been there through a lot of the sightings that have been reported, a lot of the big things that happened. We'll go over a few of those. So there's definitely the good intention that they started out with. I think for the most part, and we know people who are involved with MUFON, who are investigators for MUFON. We know Melinda Leslie, and what we cover here today or what we talk about is no slight on them at all. This actually has nothing to do with them at all. Because as we know, the MUFON is broken into different regions, and they have different people who do this or do that. If you're in California, for instance, like myself, you report to I think it's even broke down to northern, southern California regions. So, they have a bunch of different regions, bunch of different field investigators, and anything said today is not a slight to MUFON as a whole. But there are some things that should be pointed out. So, with that being said, okay, Bryce Foley said Musan is from Mexico. Okay, you got to look him up. I swear, if you Google Jaime Musan and look at some of the older articles, I'm almost positive you're going to come across the information that I'm talking about, and then you'll kind of maybe see this thing in a different light. Jody Terry, the way they presented this looks so staged and fake. I think it hurt disclosure. That's my point. That's my point, Jody. So we have to, as us in ufology, we have to turn our back on this evidence. We have to turn our back on this. We have to give this thing no credibility at all. We have to agree with the skeptics that this thing is not real and take the wind out of the skeptics' sails, because the ones here in ufology that are promoting this thing like it's real, are giving the wind to their sails. And we have to, if we did a show on skeptic versus non-skeptic logic, and what we found out is that there are, when you look at the total of population, on one far end there are extreme skeptics who just don't believe in believing anything. They just don't believe that anything could be real. They just don't believe in believing. Then we have on the far end of that spectrum believers who just believe to believe, right? But then we have those regular skeptics and regular non-skeptics who are open-minded to the conversation. So they can come together. Those two can come together, have an open-minded conversation, depending on the evidence presented, can be led one way or the other, can lean this way or that way. And that's the fruitful conversation, the conversation that's going to get us to move further. The ones that hurt the conversation are the far end extreme skeptics who just won't listen to anything that's being presented or said, and then the extreme believers who will just believe without any evidence at all. Those two sides are what hurt this conversation. So you have to make sure that you don't fall on that far extreme side, whether you're a skeptic or a non-skeptic. Just don't fall on that far end, and you are helping the conversation by being open-minded. So just wanted to say that with Jody's comment there. And let's see. What if it's done purposely to discredit searchers? I want to say, Mike Jones, almost with certainty that these are the same things that this guy showed years ago that were already proved to be debunked. So I don't think that it could not have been presented. I think it's being represented, and it's only being represented because it's on a large stage. The first time, people immediately shut it down and figured out that this wasn't real, and pretty much went away. But since Mexico had the stage, I guess he felt comfortable bringing it back out as actual evidence. But yeah, grain of salt and not real, in my opinion. So, Pied Piper technique. Exactly. So, yeah, so with MUFON, they've helped. We have New Fork, which is another reporting place where you can report your sightings. And the difference between the two, before we get into this, is MUFON, it's sort of behind a paywall. You have to kind of be a member just to access the data, but you can't access a lot of their data if you do. But then you have a New Fork, which is a wide open website. You can go to newfork.com today, or .org, one of the two, and you can see sightings as far back as they've recorded. You can see, in a lot of cases, photos that were included with the reports. You just can't see videos, but there's a wealth of information there. So if you had a sighting, if you saw something strange, you went to New Fork's website. They have different categories of shapes of craft, and based off of that, you may be able to find something in there that had previously been reported, something that you saw yourself and didn't realize that that's what you saw. New Fork is doing it all the way right now. So shout out to both of them, because they both are, on some level doing something, but you might change your mind a little bit after you hear about some of the things about MUFON. So we're gonna talk about the good first. So the mission, MUFON's mission, when they started in 1969, and what their intentions were at that point and going forward up to a certain point. So let's take a look at that. The MUFON network, commonly known as MUFON, stands as one of the most prominent organizations dedicated to the investigation and research of unidentified flying objects. Since its inception in 1969, MUFON has played a pivotal role in collecting and analyzing reports of UFO sightings, leading to a deeper understanding of these unexplained phenomena. And let's see, MUFON was founded in 1969 by Walter H. Andrus Jr., a retired United States Marine Corps major. The organization was established with the core mission to scientifically investigate UFO sightings and collect data pertaining to these encounters. Over the years, MUFON has evolved into a global network of researchers, investigators, and enthusiasts dedicated to understanding the mysteries of the skies. So, in the beginning, one of the first things they looked into would have been the Lubbock Lights, 1951. So, one of the earliest cases investigated by MUFON dates back to 1951, known as the Lubbock Lights incident. In August of that year, a group of college professors in Lubbock, Texas, observed the formation of bright, glowing lights moving across the night sky. The incident garnered national attention, and MUFON later conducted a retrospective investigation, further solidifying the organization's dedication to uncovering the truth behind such sightings. They also looked into the Roswell incident, all in 1947. So, although MUFON was founded after the infamous Roswell incident, the organization extensively studied this landmark event. In 1947, near Roswell, New Mexico, an unidentified flying object crashed, sparking widespread speculation about extraterrestrial involvement. MUFON's meticulous examination of this incident contributed to the ongoing discourse surrounding what truly transpired that fateful summer. They also looked into the Rendlesham Forest incident. This is one of the popular ones that everyone knows about. So, often referred to as Britain's Roswell, the Rendlesham Forest incident took place over a series of nights in December 1980 near RAF Bentwaters in Suffolk, England. U.S. military personnel stationed at the base reported encountering a series of strange lights and a metallic object in the forest. MUFON's involvement in this case helped shed light on an incident that continues to captivate UFO enthusiasts worldwide. And they also looked into and reported on the Phoenix Lights, which, friend of the show, Tom King, obviously was one of the guys who filmed the Phoenix Lights. And in March of 1997, thousands of witnesses in Phoenix, Arizona, reported seeing a massive V-shaped formation of lights in the night sky. The event, known as the Phoenix Lights, remains as one of the most widely observed and documented UFO sightings in recent history. MUFON played a crucial role in gathering eyewitness accounts and conducting investigations to unravel the mystery behind this awe-inspiring spectacle. Now, the history of MUFON is deeply entwined with the pursuit of truth regarding unidentified aerial phenomenon. Through rigorous investigation, meticulous research, and a commitment to scientific inquiry, MUFON has elevated the discourse surrounding UFO encounters. As the organization continues to work, it remains at the forefront of unraveling the enigmas that reside within the boundless expanse of the universe. So that's been the mission of MUFON. So it's been all good. They've been at pretty much every, once they went globally, they're pretty, they have investigators all over the globe. So they get dispatched to investigate sightings all over the world, and they've been the place to go. So with that being said, there was a point where they hit a rough patch, right? And this kind of is going to go into why I feel the way I feel about MUFON. So with that being said, they ran into Robert Bigelow. If you know Robert Bigelow, who used to own Skinwalker Ranch, billionaire. He was part of the ATIP and the NIDS, and he actually got intertwined with MUFON on some questionable levels. We'll just say that. So MUFON, with the reputation that they had from 1969 all the way up to the point that we're about to talk about, that's when MUFON got into, as we see here, the collusion with the Department of Defense, Pentagon, potentially with just, this is what's been reported. We're going to go ahead and go into some of the points in time where they colluded potentially and did some things that were unsavory when it comes to information that should be protected. You'll see. Let's go ahead and go into that. So the collusion, this is the collusion part of MUFON, right? So in 2009, The Mutual UFO Network entered into an ill-fated collaboration initiated by the then newly launched Bigelow Aerospace Advanced Space Studies. The MUFON Bass venture was almost certainly a part of the now revealed Pentagon-funded Advanced Aviation Threat Identification Program, or ATIP, if not the primary arm of the operation. At the time, MUFON attempted to coordinate widespread training for field investigators described as a rapid response team. The organization soon found itself marred in turmoil, which included a large-scale exodus of personnel. Public relations were extremely strained as revolving door leadership saw a run of 4 executive directors in as many years. A lack of organizational transparency was a common complaint, which included the public nonprofit corporation's failure to provide details of funding sources. So before we join the capital D disclosure celebration, let's consider how the players conducted their affairs up to this point. Now, James Carrion served as executive director of MUFON from 2006 to 2009. He is a former intelligence analyst and UFO writer researcher who pursues forensic historical analysis. Now, this is an excerpt from his 2011 blog post titled Strange Bedfellows. So we're going to look at that. So this is from his post in 2011. This was executive director of MUFON from 2006 to 2009. Now, it says, speaking of strange relationships, in 2009, billionaire entrepreneur Robert Bigelow decided to hire MUFON to conduct UFO investigations on behalf of his new venture, BASS, an alleged aerospace company interested in discovering and exploiting novel and cutting-edge technologies that relate to space travel. Well, what is so unusual about that? Maybe it has to do with the following interesting facts. That John Schulisser, MUFON board member and former international director, was offered a U.S. government security clearance allegedly related to his consulting work for Mr. Bigelow. Now, whether John was actually given that clearance, I can't say for sure, but I was one of the people interviewed as part of his background investigation. Mr. Bigelow did not fund MUFON's work for BASS. Instead, sponsors that Bigelow revealed to John Schuessler, but not to other MUFON board members, put up the money. So, in response to the request for comment, Carrion provided the following contribution. In the fall of 2008, Robert Bigelow approached MUFON with an extraordinary business proposal, a subcontract from a Bigelow subsidiary called Bigelow Aerospace Advanced Space Studies, LLC, or BASS, for MUFON UFO investigative services. The MUFON board signed non-disclosure agreements and the negotiations began. BASS essentially wanted MUFON's field investigators to conduct quality investigations of significant UFO cases, no expense spared, and then to feed those investigations to BASS scientists. BASS' alleged goal for his new endeavor was to acquire UFO super technology and then to file patents on this technology. The contract was signed in the spring of 2009 and ran for only a few months before the partnership withered and fell apart towards the end of the year. Before, during, and after this partnership, only one MUFON board member, former MUFON director John Schuessler, was ever made privy to the money source for the Bigelow subcontract. Now it's public knowledge, courtesy of investigative journalists, that this money came from a Pentagon black budget project. So basically, the money he was given was from the Pentagon to get information or data from MUFON from their field investigators and be fed right into essentially the Pentagon. The Pentagon paid for it through using black budget money. So, what are we to make of this public disclosure of the Pentagon's renewed forge into UFO investigation? If we look back in history, when UFOs first hit mass consciousness in 1947, the nascent U.S. Air Force investigated UFOs through a number of projects, culminating in the last official investigation, Project Blue Book, which was killed off in 1969. That is counted 22 years of taxpayer dollars spent in the pursuit of something that was declared a non-threat to national security. Now, fast forward to 2007, and the Pentagon's Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, or ATIP, funded allegedly at the behest of a politician and a billionaire who had a common interest in the phenomena. Are we expected to believe that the Pentagon let almost 40 years pass in between its investigations before deciding that UFOs were a potential threat? Did the billions of dollars spent prior on air defense against a Soviet, Chinese, or rogue nation under nuclear attack or tracking most minute space junk simply not detect UFO threats beforehand? And is the black budget money given out freely at the whim of any politician who wants to study their eccentric interests? And will the disclosure of ATIP just spawn countless other conspiracy theories? Today, when science is sadly under attack, previously accepted facts take second place to rumor, innuendo, and fantasy, and where alleged leader of the free world spins daily conspiracies and has severe allergy to the truth, what are we really to make of the Pentagon investigating what it has consistently called a nothing burger? The question that every American should be asking for the elected officials is, what did the $22 million taxpayer dollars earmarked for the black budget UFO investigation project really buy them, and how soon can we examine the entire merchandise? Even more importantly for Congress to investigate is the decision to make rationale that led up to this project and why almost 40 years lapsed before UFOs were declared objects non grata in American airspace. What an in-depth congressional investigation may reveal is a deeper truth, one that, as Sir Winston Churchill once described the former Soviet Union, is a riddle wrapped in a mystery inside an enigma. In reality, we are all tired of enigmas, mysteries, and riddles. What Americans really want, indeed, and the whole world wants, is just the ultimate truth, whatever it may be. The MUFON Bass train wreck was not the first time activities involving the nonprofit Bigelow and cash accountability came under fire. And we'll be getting into that because now it gets into the money. At the turn of the century, news leaked of what would become known as the Carpenter Affair. It was soon confirmed that John Carpenter, while serving as MUFON director of abduction research, secretly provided Robert Bigelow data from case files of some 140 alien abductees for a reported $14,000. So John Carpenter, serving as the director of MUFON, made a deal with Robert Bigelow to sell 140 cases of alien abductees to Bigelow, and Bigelow's in bed with the Pentagon at this point. So John Carpenter is among one of those who confirmed what he termed the discreet sharing of data, which reportedly includes copies of recordings of hypnosis sessions conducted with the individuals. Carpenter explained during a 2012 email exchange that he confidently provided the data to Bigelow for review by Bigelow and colleagues at the now dissolved Bigelow-founded National Institute for Discovery Science, or NIDS. Personnel of the institute included Colonel John Alexander, who, according to John Velez via UFO Updates list in 2000, confirmed what Velez termed the file cell, as did MUFON then executive director Walt Andrus and Bigelow himself. Now here's an excerpt from 2013 blog post, The Carpenter Affair, for the record. So This is just something that was in his blog post. Stated Colonel John Alexander, a former NID staff member, and among those originally confirming the Carpenter affair, was asked earlier this year to please comment on related issues, such as any interest he may have had in the 140 case files. He also asked, in his opinion, why Mr. Bigelow obtained copies of the files and financed Carpenter's activities. The colonel was additionally requested to please comment on whether other researchers supplied Bigelow with files as Carpenter suggested. Lastly, I wrote, Alexander, former MUFON director James Carrion, alleged that Bigelow moved funds on behalf of an undisclosed financial sponsor during collaborations with MUFON. Can you offer any comment on that? Is there anything you might be at liberty to discuss concerning relationships between Bigelow corporations and intelligence agencies? In an August email, Colonel Alexander replied briefly, you should ask Bigelow if you are interested in old affairs. So 140 people in question who had sought support from Carpenter and MUFON were not informed of the arrangement between Carpenter and Bigelow. The specific details of the primary motives and agendas behind the circumstances remain unclear. So the lack of accountability is disappointingly common within the UFO community. Its members, often eager for new and intriguing information, frequently fail to question the bookkeeping of the messenger if they support the message. So essentially, what this whole thing has said essentially is that at some point in time, the directors of MUFON felt, for whatever reason, it was a good idea to sell the data that they had been collecting on people who reported for many years, and I guess specifically in UFO abduction encounters, and maybe some other information, but then for the benefit or against the wishes of the people who reported these cases, and then that information being funded or paid for by the involvement that Bigelow had with the Pentagon, which was paid for by black budget money. So essentially, the government was receiving this information through Bigelow, and MUFON gave it up. So there was a point in time where MUFON was essentially guilty of, without Bigelow being the intermediary, was essentially making the information that was reported to them available to the government. So if you think about if that was happening in today's time, now there is no proof that it currently is going on, but who knows, right? If this happened at one point in time in the past, it could literally happen again. And I think this is when you talk about MUFON, and that's why we were saying in the beginning, they're behind a paywall. You have to pay to be a member to access any of the files. Even myself, I've reported to them. And in order for me to get insight into what may be going on with my case, or I would need to pay them, become a member in order to be on the inside to be able to see the information. And I don't know what they're doing with the information. Are they taking some of these more credible reports and feeding that right directly to the government? Is that a reason why, the government doesn't want to play, admit certain things or play fair because they're getting a lot of their intel from the people that we're reporting to directly, right? So at the end of the day, the reason why I even wanted to go through that and show you that is because, I have my own personal dealing with them. And as I said in the beginning of this show, that things changed a little bit for me only because I did get to speak to one of the MUFON, I didn't speak directly, but through email, to one of the MUFON representatives who was handling my case, right? I reported it back in January of this year. We had the initial contact with each other, and he was looking into the case. Then he actually ghosted me for 6-7 months and I have a list of emails. And because he responded back, I'm not going to put his name out there. I'll shout out to Spaced Out Radio, Dave Scott. I didn't even, I'm sitting here doing all this talking about this. Didn't even see you come in. Appreciate you coming through, Dave. So, with that being said, yeah, okay, so I ended up speaking to emailing the person, said for whatever reason that my emails that I was sending him had gone to spam. Okay, I can get with that. That's potentially possible. You responded. But then he came back with the canned answer for my sighting, right? You guys have seen the sighting. I've showed you the sighting, and I'll show it to you again today. But the whole point of it is that after all this non-contact, and I had done a few shows and mentioned MUFON. He knows I have a show. The person is the investigator, so it's possible that he's seen a show or two where I mentioned that MUFON wasn't doing anything or they weren't moving anything, and then miraculously I get this email after he says that it was gone to a spam box. So you've seen my sighting. I've already laid the foundation on that and showed the facts on that. But what I did also was I sent him 3 cases that I was able to uncover from MUFON that actually tied into the same thing that I saw, the same exact thing that I saw. So he comes back with the canned response like, oh, they're balloons. Well, this shows that you did zero investigating on this case, or you're just not being truthful, because I pointed out to him sightings within MUFON that were determined to be unknown, and they're the exact same images. So you guys saw my sighting. Actually, I think I have it queued up. Just going to show it real quick here. And let me share this screen. I'm going to share it. So this was my sighting.
Really?
So you tell me if he's investigating this. So the guy wants to say that this is a balloon arc, is what he came back and said. So it basically shows no investigating at all was done on this sighting.
They're birds.
No, they're not.
Those ain't birds. Those are literal birds.
Dude, those are not birds. There's no way.
And as soon as this is over,
I'm not sure. I see one of them. I'm looking at a direct one of them. They're birds.
Where'd they go?
They're right there.
Can't see.
you can see that better.
They're birds. I don't care what y'all say. They're birds.
Okay. All right, Kiara. Where? Where?
And so with that sighting, right? So
Exactly.
you see what I
If they're
reported.
birds, where they go, Kiari?
Disappeared in the thin air. So if he has access to the database, which I know he does, then he would have obviously seen this. So let me go ahead and show you. This is out of MUFON's own files, database. He has access to all this. So you tell me if he investigated this. So this is what
2092.
this is MUFON.
A Nevada witness at Las Vegas on October 28, 2020, at 5:04 p.m., filmed hundreds, possibly thousands of orbs repeatedly flying through the sky. All of them were flying together peacefully, making no sound. What was also seen were 2 larger ships, possibly motherships, pulsating rapidly amongst them. Take a look at the video we have on this.
Yeah, I seen it. Oh, that's a plane. There has to be 100 of them.
As far as elevation goes, mines were lower, a lot lower than these, because you could see mines with the naked eye. These are the exact same objects, ladies and gentlemen.
And that's the second.
This is in their
largest.
MUFON file.
Look, it just flew underneath them all.
So an investigator would have obviously, I'm sure, looked at these, right, to determine that these were the same things. You would think.
There's at least 150. Oh no, there's probably 1,000. If you look at how many tens there are. I hope this comes out on video.
Once again, out of MUFON's own database. Okay, so that's that one. I was able to provide them, and I'm doing the work for him. I provided this to him as well. This is MUFON's database.
That is, it's like a constellation. What the fuck?
Hurry, bring your binoculars. There's hundreds of them out here. Hurry.
Okay, where are you? In the back?
Backyard, right now.
What the heck?
Dude, you see, I see stuff
Text,
like that.
text Dad. Tell him to look up. Or what the heck?
Your dad, he don't even...
And I think this one was the most damning one. This was, these are all obviously the same objects. And this one says this was closed. They closed the case as unknown other.
All those UFO sightings and stuff. Mm-hmm. I believe God's, the earth, the Bible describes God created the heavens, plural, and
Same
the earth.
objects, guys.
There are 3 stages of heaven.
Yeah.
And I just read the...
And that's the end of their video. So those 3 videos came directly from MUFON's database, directly from their database. So how could you as a MUFON reporter, look over that and come back and say your sighting was wedding balloons stringed together? So here's what I'll say. MUFON dropped the ball. That's what they did. MUFON dropped the ball. There could have not been any investigation that took place with my sighting. Absolutely none at all. Canned response, okay, so if I'm a person that hadn't looked into this and already compared this amongst other sightings and done my own footwork to determine that, and plus in my sighting they all disappeared, so there's no way. But even with that, I kind of guided this guy and gave him all the clues that he needed to tie all this information together. So what I did was I took these case numbers from the MUFON database and I emailed them back. I emailed them back earlier today and I said, hey, you may want to take a look at this. They're definitely not balloons, so we're not going for that. Check out these case numbers. These came from your own database. And as a matter of fact, one of the cases was closed as unknown other. So if you have at least one there, and I'm sure they were all closed in the same fashion, but if you have at least one closed as unknown other, then you can clearly see that these are the same objects as those. Then how do you come back with the canned response to me as an arc of balloons? So did they drop the ball? How often do they drop the ball? Why are they dropping the ball? Is it still something that they need to fix internally? Because I can tell you, if you go to newfork.org or newfork.com, they report everything that they show on there, and you're able to cross-reference data that you may have with information that they have. They're doing it right over there. Now, the only reason why I did report to MUFON is because a good friend of the show, Tim Senor, has had a great experience with MUFON. He reported his Tic Tac sighting, and they handled his very well. They came back and essentially said it was an anomalous thing, and which was the right thing to come to a conclusion on. I've seen the video. If you watch episode 4, and a few of you have, but he shows it in that episode, and it was definitely something anomalous. So how do you drop the ball in this case? It's not like I just presented you with video. I gave you all the breadcrumbs, and now I'm giving you cases from your own database. So I'm allowing, that's why I'm not going to make a rash decision like as hard as I was going to go on this video and pretty much expose a lot of other things. I'm giving MUFON the chance to redeem themselves, actually investigate this sighting, and then determine that it is what we know that it is, which is something anomalous or unknown other. That's the category it should have been in. And just, his being able to come back to me and just say, give me a canned response, just showed me that particular investigator did not do any investigating. So, but that doesn't bleed over to a Melinda Leslie or Roger Martin or Preston Dennett. I'm sure those guys do what they're supposed to do as far as it comes down to investigation. So this isn't a condemnation of MUFON as a whole, even though you just pointed out the shady past that they had. And, the way I felt about it is that maybe they're taking all the best information and they're putting those off to the side, or they're, taking those out of the investigators' hands and then doing what with it? We know historically they passed that information on through a third party with, for sale. And then that information ended up being handed over essentially to the Pentagon or DOD. So convoluted mess. Did MUFON drop the ball? In this case, so far, yes. If there's a redemption story, then we'll revisit it, and I'll definitely let you know what happened. But as of this point, the Ask the Chat question.
Ask the chat.
Should MUFON be more transparent with sightings? My answer is obviously yes. I don't know if you've ever reported to them. Now, I'm not going to be the one to say don't report to them, because like I said, I know of good things that they've done, good outcomes that they've had with some of their investigators. So I would say continue to report to them, but stay on top of your investigator. And then also report to New Fork as well. Report to both sites at the same time. If you have a sighting, report to both. And then I guess if this arrow thing becomes a thing, then maybe you'll be reporting to 3 sites. But that's just a little background on MUFON, because before I had to deal with them, I had never reported anything, so I didn't have anything to go off of. That's why I talked to Tim about his opinion on how they took care of him, and that's the only reason why I did it. They've been, if this hadn't happened to me, I would look at them as, just as great as New Fork. Like, hey, they're on the side of the people. They're taking our information and cataloging it. They're doing all the groundwork, and that's great. But you have to know that, in some cases, you have to know the past that they've had, first of all, because that matters. And then it just means you have to stay even more on top of the people that you're handing this information off to. So there it is there. That is what I had for MUFON, my whole little thing on it. And like I said, I was going to go harder, but I looked through the emails and the person did actually respond back. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt for now. And I gave him those case numbers of the videos you just watched. So we'll see what he comes back with as his conclusion. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get into, and actually, let me go through here real quick. I know with that presentation, I haven't checked the chat. So let me go back. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I had to go in on them on that instance. So let me see. Let me go back. Okay. Seeing images, aliens from explanate public contact. Let's see. Yeah. Okay, so we'll start there. Mike Jones, David just had Katie Page on. Great interview. Yeah, and Katie Page included. You know, I know she's part of MUFON, and this would be no slight at her. I'm sure she does her job and stays on top of her cases, and I'm sure she investigates. I mean, that's the whole point of what their role is to get out there, put their boots on the ground, cross-reference these cases to determine what's real and what isn't, and what's in. But yeah, the experience that I had was not that. So far. So let's see. Let's see. Magneticus, BASF, MESS, right. Whenever Bigelow's involved, you know anything about Bigelow, any of the information that data he collected at Skinwalker Ranch, he hasn't turned over to anyone. He's not sharing any of his information, which is funny because he ends up being the guy to buy other people's information to share with the DOD. Just crazy. So let's see. Let's see here. Let's make sure. Yeah, the mass sighting, multiple people seen it, really started to question things, and that's the whole thing, right? So, you know, when it's for somebody to come, so I saw these things disappear. Don't come back to me and tell me these are balloons, dude. That just shows me that you really didn't look into what it was that we were talking about, or what it was I was presenting to you. Jody Terry, thank you for coming through. Gotta run, Mr. Rob G. Love the content. See you next time for sure. Friday with David Divine Broadcasted and Long Island Bigfoot. And Magneticus says, the MUFON is what made me think about Mattel in the hurricane season. Oh, what you mean by that? Are they dropping the ball on purpose? Right. That's what I'm trying to figure out. That's what I don't know. And it could be that based on the history, based on the past. Maybe it's kickball at South Park kicked the baby. Yeah. How can anyone trust them if they don't, Rob? Right. Yeah, just as bad, Magneticus. Child support enforcement sells your information to third parties. No better than that. Let's see. It's a recording medium, level 1. Okay, where Derek's comment go? He probably pulled it back. Yeah, he erased it. Oh, Derek Galloway, hey, thanks for coming through, man. Yeah, so that's my spiel on MUFON, and yeah, when we get into this music, I mean, it's time for Once Upon a Time in Ufology. And today's case is going to be on the Maury Island UFO. So, as depicted on the screen, I don't know if you are familiar with this, but on the Maury Island incident, on that fateful day, Harold Dahl, a harbor patrolman, and his son Charles were on a routine mission in their boat near Maury Island. What began as an ordinary day took a surreal turn when they reported encountering 6 donut-shaped objects hovering in the sky. According to Dahl, one of these craft experienced a malfunction, spewing molten metal and debris, which allegedly caused the tragic death of Dahl's dog and injured his son. Enter Fred Chrisman and Harold Lee. Fred Chrisman and Harold Lee played pivotal roles in the aftermath of the Maury Island incident. They were two men who claimed to be investigating the incident on behalf of a mysterious government agency. Chrisman, a former Army Air Force pilot, and Lee, a self-proclaimed journalist, presented themselves as representatives of a covert operation. Their involvement added an air of intrigue to the incident, as their true affiliations and motives remained shrouded in mystery. The Men in Black. Adding further mystique to their story were the figures known as the Men in Black. These shadowy individuals allegedly paid visits to both Dahl and Chrisman, warning them not to discuss the incident. Described as wearing dark suits and possessing an otherworldly aura, the Men in Black became a staple in UFO lore. Their presence in this narrative has fueled speculation about the government cover-ups and extraterrestrial involvement. The Maury Island incident garnered the attention of government agencies, including the FBI and the U.S. Army Air Force's Counterintelligence Corps. Their investigations, however, yielded no conclusive evidence of a UFO encounter. Instead, they focused on the possibility of a hoax orchestrated by Dahl and Chrisman for financial gain or other motives. The Maury Island incident has endured as a cornerstone of ufology. Its legacy lies in the unresolved questions surrounding the authenticity of the encounter. Was it a genuine extraterrestrial event, a hoax concocted for personal gain, or something else entirely? That'd be the Maury Island incident. And the funny thing about this is, this was the sighting where, with the 6 craft, one of them appeared like it was in trouble. They said it was kind of wobbling, and then it expelled this molten material, which is being depicted in this picture. And the material that fell hit the boat, broke his son's arm, and killed the dog. Now, some of it went in the water as well. So this goes back to the Avi Loeb finding of the sphericals on his expedition when he went out and found those. Now, my belief is that when it comes to those, that you're going to find that material all over the ocean. It's plausible that these things, when they're, in trouble, or they're expending some sort of like spent fuel in some cases, which comes out of this molten material, and it's very possible that that's the same material that Avi Loeb is, the same type of material that Avi Loeb is coming across, in his investigation. So it's something to think about, and it's something that's reported widely in a lot of other sightings, that they spew off this molten material. We have airplanes that drop fuel when they're in trouble. It could be the same sort of thing, but there's a good chance that if what Avi Loeb has found is not from this planet, that it may be the same material that was spewed off in the Maury Island UFO incident. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and jump into our science fiction to science fact movie edition. And with that, we have, get the comment off here. With the science fiction to science fact movie edition, our movie is going to be Nope. Pretty sure you've seen it. If you haven't seen it, I don't know where you've been. But Nope, just to give you a synopsis, is a suspenseful thriller by Jordan Peele set in a small American town. It follows the inhabitants as they encounter a series of unexplained and unsettling events. The film delves into themes of paranoia, isolation, and the unknown as the characters grapple with the mysterious phenomena that threatens their lives. With the talented ensemble cast, Nope promises a gripping and thought-provoking cinematic experience. So I'm sure you've seen Nope. It was great. Actually, when I first saw it, obviously I was expecting physical craft, beings inside the craft. I went to the movies. When the movie ended, credits start rolling. I sat in my seat and I just sat there for a second. I was like, didn't know if I really liked it. Got up. By the time I walked to the car, I had appreciated what Jordan Peele brought with the living aspect of this craft, because a lot of people say that some of these things seem like they're alive, and in my case, the things that I just showed you give off of something, or a feeling of being biological, like they're potentially, I don't know how that works, if they're living entities. So in the same way that Spielberg was rumored to have been given inside information on the phenomenon, which made him able to make the Close Encounters of the Third Kind and made it so authentic, potentially was Jordan Peele given some information on the whole living craft thing, because if you think about it, that's pretty far out to just come out, think about by yourself, without already understanding some of the characteristics of what people report, as far as, and I'm sure he's done some research, but to really take that angle as far as living craft, so I felt like when I got to the car, I was like, that was a great angle. This was a great movie. So I've watched it about 10 times now, and I'm probably going to watch it again tonight. But that is our science fiction to science fact movie, Nope. Let me go ahead and get us out of there. And then what we can do is do the go home music. All right. So, as always, we do this show always and forever for the positive progression of humanity, period, point blank, no other reason than that. And it will stay that way as long as this show stays on air. So, totally appreciate you guys coming out and hanging out and listening to the rant about MUFON, because I had a bad experience, and there's some out there, I'm sure, that had great experiences. Tim is an example. He reported it. They did what they were supposed to do. They investigated, worked hard on it, and came back with the results. I just didn't get that, with the representative that I dealt with. And then the no contact for 6 months during the investigation. I mean, even if my emails were going to his spam, he should have, if he was investigating, he should have actually been proactively contacting me about the case. So yeah, with that being said, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Once again, next show, I'm going to find the connecting cable so we can open up the message line, the call-in line, live line, because I want to hear from you guys as well. I'm reading all the comments, but I would love for you guys to verbalize it if you are open to calling in and doing that. So once again, that number is 856-843-3444 or 856-THE-DIG. You know how we do it. Let's go ahead and thank everybody for coming through. Appreciate you. Mike Jones, appreciate you. Derek Galloway, Mikey's Beach, appreciate you. Magneticus, thanks for coming through. Bryson's Folly, as always, thank you for coming through. And let's go back. Cashew, I know Cashew was here. Jody Terry, thank you for coming through. Let's get back. Oh, Davey Scott from Spaced Out Radio, thanks for coming through. Raymond, appreciate you coming through. Thanks for coming. Let's see. Oh, we got some here. We got some more. I said Jody Terry, but I'll say it again. Thanks for coming through. Don't want to miss a soul. Long Island Bigfoot, thanks for coming through. We'll see you in that. As a matter of fact, let me promote that. Friday, 5 p.m. Pacific time. Make sure you come through. Joshua, thanks for coming through. Make sure you come through to see David Divine broadcasted Long Island Bigfoot as they come out here for the social roundtable. We're just going to hang out, talk about some stuff. Damon Austin, thanks for coming through. And you know how we do it. James Weston, I appreciate you. Once again, this is Social Dig. My name is Mr. Rob G. I am your host. Thank you guys for coming through. You have a great rest of your day. Take care. See you on Friday.